In this episode, we're going to look at how to troubleshoot connectivity issues. I'll show you how to do it, and we'll talk about the concepts along the way. Users are reporting that they can't access a web server after a recent upgrade that included adding a second DNS server. What we have to do is determine the cause and attempt to resolve the issues for the users. We have to clearly document any issues we find and any solutions we can implement. We don't have access to the devices in the cloud or that web server. And if we have to, we're going to escalate the problem if necessary. Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify nation. And if you're new here, welcome. This episode is part of my series on configuration examples for the CCNA. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. Troubleshoot connectivity issues. I have the packet tracer open. On the left side, I have our work area where we can interface with all our devices, find our problems, and hopefully fix them. On the right side is our instructions. The bottom right is the normal packet tracer activity window. I'm going to use that here to track my completion and also check my results as I get into the solution, get into the problem a little bit more. I have the Word document up here of those instructions. The reason I have the Word document is there's questions we have to go in and answer. I use the Word document. It allows me to enter in my answers and then save that document with my answers in it. Here we have our addressing table. This is all the addressing that our devices have set up on them. As you can see, we have several routers, several PCs, a web server, some DNS servers. We have all that configuration. That's what this network is on the left side. Our objectives: we're going to troubleshoot and resolve connectivity issues if possible. Otherwise, the issue should be clearly documented so they can be escalated up to somebody who has the ability to fix those problems. We have some users reporting problems. We did an upgrade with a second DNS server. We need to figure out what the problems are, attempt to resolve them, clearly document those issues. Look at the note here. Router 1 can only be accessed using SSH with the username admin and password Cisco12345. That's router 1 right here. We only can use SSH to access that. There's no console connection. We can't click on R1. If we try to click on R1 and go into the CLI, it's going to say it's locked. We have to use SSH to connect into R1. R2, router 2 is in the ISP, so it's in this cloud somewhere, and you can't access it. Instructions. First step, determine the connectivity issues from PC1. On PC1, open up the command prompt. So I go ahead and click on PC1. I automatically make this window a little bit bigger, going right to left. Click on the desktop tab and then click on command prompt. There we go. Enter the command ipconfig to verify the IP address and default gateway have been assigned to PC01. Correct as necessary. Over here back in our command prompt on PC1, ipconfig, no spaces, all one word. Hit enter. Here is our IP information. We have our version 4 address with the subnet mask and default gateway. If I scroll up here, find PC1. Here's PC1 with its information. IP address is supposed to be 172.16.1.3, 172.16. Oh, it's set to 168. Well, we need to go and we need to fix that. We have a wrong IP address. The third octet is wrong. Let's see if there's anything else wrong. Subnet mask is a /24 3255s. That looks correct. And our default gateway 172.16.1.1. That is there. We need to fix this, second octet in our IP address. I'm going to go ahead and close the command prompt. I'm going to leave the PC1 configuration window open when I'm going to close the command prompt. What I can do is on where it says command prompt, follow the blue line over, go ahead and click the X there. Now I can go and click on IP configuration Here's our IP4 information. IP4 information. This is where we have to go and correct that second octet in there. It should be a 16, not a 168. Go ahead, delete the 8. That is our IP address. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and close the IP configuration window, open up our command prompt again, and type in ipconfig one more time to see if that works. Here is our corrected IP address, 172.16.1.3, 172.16.1.3. There we go. We now have a correct IP address. After verifying or correcting the IP address issues on PC1, issue pings to the default gateway, web server, and other PCs. Were the pings successful? Record those results. Okay, first thing they want us to do is ping the default gateway. And they give us the IP addresses here, which are nice. Ping 172.16.1.1. Yep, the pings to our default gateway, they were successful. Pings to the web server, 209.165.201.2. PING space 209.165.201.2. Timed out. Oh, they had to do some address resolution. We got 3 out of 4 there. I'm just going to repeat that to make sure we get 4 out of 4. Yep, our pings to the web server, they worked. Now we need to ping PC02. PC02 IP address 172.16.1.4. 72. Oops, come on. 172.16.1.4. Those all worked. So yes, it was successful. To PCA. PCA's IP address 172.16.2.3. 172.16.2.3. Uh-oh, that ping is not available. Destination host is unreachable. PCA was not successful. That is a big no. PCB. When we ping PCB, PCB 172.16.2.4. 172.16.2.4. That is also unreachable. Also unreachable. Let's quickly look and see what was happening here. We are on PC1. We were able to ping our default gateway, so we did have connection on our local area network. We were able to ping the web server. We were able to get through the router, through the ISP, all the way to the web server. That worked. Pinging PC2, another PC on our local area network. Once again, our local area network is everything up to the router interface on our network. So we were able to communicate on our network. But as soon as we went off of our network to that second network down here with PCA and PCB, we weren't able to connect there. And so we have some issue in here. Okay, use the web browser to access the web server on PC01. Access the web server by first entering the URL, then by using the IP address. Record the results. Once again, I'm going to open up PC1. I'm going to close the command prompt. That's in the blue line all the way to the right. Click on the X. Now I can open up my web browser. Once again, very simplified web browser, but it still will work. They want us to use the domain name here, so www.cisco.pka. I'm guessing PKA is Packet Tracer Activity. Will it open up the web page? It's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. Maybe I need to click go. Oh, there it is. Look at that. We have connection to the web server. Very simplistic page, but it is still the connection. Yes, we are able to connect to the domain name of the web server. Are we able to connect to the IP address? Once again, that IP address is 209.165.201.2. I go ahead and click go. It brings in the same web page. I don't get an error. Yep, we are able to connect there. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Step 1D, document the issues and provide the solutions. Okay, now going back to this. The IP address was misconfigured first on PC1. And so let's document that. IP address on PC-01 was incorrect. We fixed that. Fixed it by changing IP address. There we go. I'll put some spaces in there, make it look pretty. What else there? Then PC1 can't successfully ping any PCs over here. PC01 cannot ping the PCs on, and what was this network here? PCA, PCB. This network was 172.16.1.0. That was the network address. It's the network portion of the address. We get that from the subnet, so it's the first 3 octets, and then zeros in the host portion. And so on the 172.16.2.0/24 network. On to step 2. Determine connectivity issues from PC2. Over in our network area, I'm going to come over here, click on PC2. Slide it over. I make it a little bit bigger, going right to left. Click on our desktop. And we want to ping here. Once again, ping is, actually we have to check the IP config statement. And so that is a command prompt. Get rid of me itching my head. And that is done in the command prompt. The command here, once again, is IP config, all one word with no spaces. Go ahead and hit enter. Here's our addressing information. Let's scroll up to our addressing table and see what it looks like. PC2, we have the IP address of 172.16.1.4. That looks right. Subnet mask of 3255s. That looks right. And then we have our default gateway, 172.16.1.1. Over here, 172.16.1.11. Our default gateway is misconfigured. I must have entered it and hit the 1 twice to give us 11. We need to go in and fix that. So I'm going to close the command prompt, come back here and go into our IP configuration, come down here to our IP version 4 default gateway, change that last octet from 11 to a 1. Go ahead, close that. Open up the command prompt once again, type in IP config, make sure our changes took, and now we have the correct default gateway. That takes care of step 2A. Step 2B, after we verify or correct the IP address, issue pings. Were the pings successful, record the results. And so from PC2, we're going to start pinging the different devices. First thing they want us to do is ping our default gateway. That is ping space 172.16.1.1. There we go. That is working. We got 4 successful pings. Yes, it was successful. Ping the web server 209.165.2001.2. Ping 209.165.201.2. That works successfully too. We got sent 4, received 4. Answer is 4, or yes. Ping PC01. Up here, scroll up to our addressing table, PC01. Here's our address, 172.16.1.3. Ping 172.16.1.3. 4 successful pings there. Yes, we were able to ping it. Ping PCA. Scroll up here. PCA's IP address 172.16.2.3. 2.16.2.3. Not working. We still can't get it. PC1 didn't work. PC2 doesn't work. We were not able to ping there. Can we ping PCB? Scroll up, get PCB's IP address. 172.16.2.4. Ping 172.16.1. Nope. 2.4. 172.16.2.4. And that also comes back as destination unreachable. We are not able to successfully ping that. Now we're going to go test our web browser through the domain name and the IP address. Close the command prompt, open up our web browser, put in the domain www.cisco.pka. I'm guessing that's for packet tracer activity. Click go. Here's our page. Yep, we were able to successfully do that. Then we need to put in the IP address. I don't remember that. Let's scroll up here. Web server address is right here. 209.165.201.2. I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. That was 209.165.201.2. There it is. It opened up the exact same page, but it was successful. Document the issues and provide solutions. Correct the issues if possible. Well, once again, PC2, we had to correct the default gateway. PC02, add incorrect default gateway. Corrected default gateway to 172.16. 172.16.1.1. PC2, another problem here is we can't ping any of the PCs on that remote network. So PC02 cannot ping PCs on the, and I'm just going to come up here, the 172.16.2.0/24 network. 172.16.2.0 172.16.2.0/24 network. That gives us, for those of us keeping score at home, both PC01 and PC02 are not able to communicate with any devices on that other local area network. I hope you're liking this episode on practical configuration examples. Leave a comment on what you think about these configuration examples. If you still have a question or comment, please let me know below. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. On to step 3, determine connectivity issues from PCA. I'm going to go ahead and click on PCA, slide it over, make the window a little bit bigger. We're going to open up the command prompt, issue IP config, see what our information is, see if it needs any correcting. Once again, I'm going to click on the desktop tab, open up our command prompt. Here's where I'm going to type in IP config, all one word with no spaces. Here's our IP version 4 information. I'm going to scroll up to our addressing table. We are on PCA, IP address of 172.16.2.3. That looks correct. subnet mask of 255, 255, 255.0, 3 255s, and the default gateway 172.16.2.1. That all looks correct. That looks good. Going down to step 3, on to part B of step 3. After correcting the IP addressing issues, well, I didn't see any. Okay, first thing we want to do is ping the web server. Ping 209.165.201.2. There it is. See what happens. Request timed out. Maybe we're doing the ARP process. Oh, we got a second timeout. Oh, I'm starting to have my doubts if this is going to work. Third timeout. Okay, and fourth timeout. No, it did not work. We were not able to get there. We were not able to ping that. Ping our default gateway. Ping space 172.16.2.1. Okay, this appears to be timing out also. We can't even ping our own default gateway. Must be some configuration that we have wrong somewhere. Right now it could be on our PC, it could be on the router, it could be a number of places. Let's continue going through. So could we ping our default gateway? No, we were not able to. Ping PCB. Ping, let's get the IP address for PCB from our addressing table. PCB's IP address 172.16.2.4, 172.16.2.4. That works. So we're able to ping, and once again we're going from PCA to PCB. We're able to ping a device on our network. Were we able to ping PCB? Yes, we were. Can we ping PC01? Get the IP address of PC01. That's right here, 172.16.1.3. Ping 172.16.1.3. And request timed out. Now are we doing ARP or are we actually going to fail? It's looking more like we're going to have a complete failure again this time. There's our third failure. Let's wait for our fourth failure. Wait for timeout for 2 seconds. There it is. We failed 4 times. We are not able to reach that PC. Were you able to ping PC01? No, we were not. Let's try pinging PC02. Here's the IP address for PC02. Ping 172.16.1.4. And we're sending out our request. We're waiting for our response coming back in. Oh, echo request 1 was not answered. And no, echo request 2, that one wasn't answered. Well, it's looking like this one is going to fail. There's the third failure. And I'm guessing we're going to get a fourth one. Fourth one has failed. So we weren't able to ping PC02. Go down, answer our question. Nope, we were not able to ping that. Let's go ahead and navigate to PKA with the web browser, record our results. I'm going to close the command prompt that's at the right of the blue line. Click on the X, open up our web browser. Here it is. Go to www.cisco.pka. Go ahead, click go. And nothing is appearing. Wait, give it a couple more seconds. Still nothing. Get impatient. Click go again. Nothing's there. Click stop. Click go. Nothing is appearing. And so we're getting, there's no connection for that at that point in time. Oh, right here. Can we ping www.cisco.pka? No, we cannot. Using the IP address of the web server, can we connect in? If we scroll up here to our addressing table, here's our web address for the web server. We'll go ahead and put that in here, 209.165.201.2. Go ahead and click go. And once again, nothing. Nothing's appearing. I'm growing impatient. I'm clicking go a couple of times. Host name not resolved. We're not able to make that connection. Once again, we are not able to connect into that. Document the issues and provide solutions. Okay, let's go back and recap what happened here. We are on PCA. PCA was able to ping PCB. That's on its own network, but anything off of its network, we were not able to ping. We weren't able to ping PC01. We were not able to ping PC02. We weren't even able to ping our default gateway. Weren't able to connect into the web server. That means there's probably an error somewhere in router 1. And so our issues, PCA can only talk to devices on its LAN. Okay. Which means there's probably a problem. Let's see what we can do to fix it. And my gut feeling is it's probably on R1 because we can't see anything past it. Let's look and see what's on R1. If we go up here and we remember our note says R1 can only be accessed using SSH and the username admin and password 1234. Well, in order to use SSH, we have to go into one of the PCs. Since we're working with PCA, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to close our web browser. And then, looking through all of our options, what we want down here is the Telnet SSH client. I'm going to go ahead, click on that. Opens this up. And so we only can use SSH, and that's what we have here. We get to choose between SSH and Telnet. SSH was selected. We are connecting into router 1, so we need the router 1 IP address. The router 1 IP address for this interface here is gig01. Gig01's IP address is 172.16.2.1. 172.16.2.1. And the username, once again down here in the note, of admin01. Capital ADMIN 01. Once we have that information, we go ahead and click connect. Oh, the current session has closed. Do you want to reestablish a new session with the previous session options? Okay, let's try that again. When we're waiting, we should see his message saying successfully connected. Still not going. Okay, so what's happening? I'm going to minimize this. We are on PCA. And we're trying to telnet into R1, so we're using our default gateway. But remember, PCA could not ping its own default gateway. Well, what device here has a connection that worked? It was PC01 and PC02. They were able to ping their default gateway. They're actually able to ping all the way out to the internet to the web server. What we need to do is go back to either PC01 or PC02 and establish our SSH connection. I'm going to go ahead and click on PC01. Web browser is still open. I'm going to go ahead and close the web browser. That's to the right on the blue line. If I scroll down here, this is where our Telnet and SSH client is. Connection type is SSH IP address. We are looking for this interface right here. If I click in the window, then mouse over this triangle, it says this is F01. Nope, that wrong connection. What we need is down here. This is gig 00. If we look at router 1 gig 00, this is the IP address. That's what we're going to connect into, 172.16.1.1. And look at our note. We have to use this username and password. Capital ADMIN01. Let's go ahead and click connect. Now it's asking us for our password. We have a good connection. we're going to be able to get into this device. Our password here is Cisco12345. Cisco12345. Hit enter. Gives us our message of the day. Unauthorized access is prohibited. Hopefully we're authorized. And we are logged in. Notice we are in privilege exec mode. We have the pound sign. Let's go ahead and verify our settings here. I'm going to use the show IP interface brief command. Hit enter. There we are. We have gig 00, gig 01, serial 00. These are the interfaces they have, or IP addresses they have set up. Let's go ahead and make sure they're right. So gig 00 is the IP address of 172.16.1.1. In our addressing table, gig 0 here is 172.16.1.1. That looks good. Here, back in our show IP interface brief, gigabit Ethernet 01 is 172.16.3.1. In our addressing table, gig 01 is 172.16.2.1. 3.1. The third octet is different. We need to go in and change that. That is why we couldn't even ping the default gateway. It had the wrong IP address. As long as we're here, let's verify the serial 00 interface, which is 209.165.200.226. 209.165.200.226. Yep, that looks right. We just have to go in and fix the gig 01 interface to the correct IP address. We're in privilege exec mode. We need to go in global configuration mode, config T. Now we need to go into that interface. So int space G01. That's the one we are looking at fixing. Go ahead, hit enter. Whoops. Go ahead and hit enter in the SSH client window. Notice we are configuring it. And the look and the feel of SSHing into a client is the same as consoling in. Just remember, SSH is using your network. You use the network IP address to get in there, where a console cable doesn't use your network. You go outside of that. It's out of band. Now, we need to change the IP address. For IP version 4, if you just re-enter that IP address, it overwrites it, it corrects it. IP space address space our correct IP address, 172.16.2.1, 172.16.2.1, followed up by our subnet, 3255//24. There we go. We have set our address. I'm going to exit out to privilege exec mode. Now, let's go back and look at PCA here. Close our SSH client. Open up our command prompt and see if we can ping our default gateway now. That IP address we just changed. Ping. Here's PCA. Our default gateway 172.16.2.1, that is the interface up here on the router that's on our local network. So 172.16.2.1. It's working. So now we can ping our default gateway. Let's see if we can actually ping the other PCs, the ones that weren't working. PC01, PC02. Let's see if we can ping those. Ping PC01's IP address, 172.16.1.3. 172.16.1.3. Well, that works now. And let's ping PC02. Ping 172.16.1.4. Oh, we had to do an ARP lookup for it to get that IP address to MAC address resolution, but then we got 3 out of 4. Let's just repeat it, make sure we get 4 out of 4. Hey, that is now working beautifully now that we changed that IP address on router 1's gig 0 interface. Last thing we need to confirm here is, can we reach that web server? I'm going to go ahead and close the command prompt. I'm going to open up the web browser. I'm going to go in and enter in the IP address, www.cisco.pka, www.cisco.pka, packet tracer activity. Go ahead, click go, and we get a working web page. Let's go ahead and test in our IP address of our web server, 209.165.201.2. Click go. Once again, completes successfully, loads in the same page. It is now working. Well, let's go down and finish answering our questions for part 3. The gig 01 interface on R1 had an incorrect IP address. Changed it to 172.16. Was it scroll up here? 2.1. /24 at fixed connectivity. There we go. On to step 4, determine connectivity issues from PCB. On PCB, open up a command prompt, look at our IP addressing information using ipconfig, make sure that is correct. So I'm going to click on PCB, click on the desktop, make the window a little bit wider, click on command prompt, and enter in ipconfig. All one word, no spaces, spell it correctly. Here's our IP version 4 information. I'm going to scroll up to our addressing table. Once again, we are on PCB. Here's our addressing information. 172.16.2.4, 172.16.2.4. That looks good. Subnet mask 3255s. That looks good here. And our default gateway 172.16.2.1. That looks good. We don't need to make any corrections. That takes us down to step 4B. After correcting the IP address issues, we didn't have any. Issue pings to all of our devices. Were the pings successful? Record your results. Okay, first thing we're going to do is ping. First thing we're going to do is ping our web server's IP address. Ping 209.165.201.2. Yes, we are able to successfully ping that. Next thing, we ping our default gateway. Ping 172.16.2.1. That works because we corrected that in step 3. We now have the right IP address there. It works. I'm getting a session terminated from that SSH client I had open when we did the other testing from step 3. That's fine. Go ahead and close that. Do you want to reestablish it? No, because we'll just keep getting warnings. Going back to the question, ping our default gateway, was that successful? Yes, it was. Ping PCA. Well, let's see if we can ping PCA. Ping, and then they're going to have us ping 01, 02 after that. Pinging PCA, IP address 172.16.2.3, 172.16.2.3. There we go. That works. Let's ping PC01, because that was the next one they're having us do. 172.16.1.3. 172.16.1.3. That works successfully. And let's ping PC02. 172.16.1.4. Ping 172.16.1.4. Those all work successfully. Pinging PCA. Yes, that worked. PC1. Yes, that worked. And also PC02. That one also worked. Now navigate to the website using the web browser. Record our results. I'm going to go ahead and close the command prompt once again. That's the X on the right side, the blue line. Open up our web browser. Go ahead and click on that. Opens up. First thing we're going to do is ping our domain name, www.cisco.pka. Enter that in. Click go. Oh, host name unresolved. We can't resolve that domain name. So we weren't successful. That's a big no from PCB to the domain name. Using the web server address, can you ping it? Web server address. Right here, 209.165.201.2. 209.165.201.2. Go ahead, click go. That pulls up our page. Interesting. The domain did not work, but the IP address did. So yes, that IP address did work. Document the issues and provide the solutions, correct if possible. Okay. Issue here is PCB. All the connectivity works, but PCB can connect into the IP address of the web server, but not the domain. And so the issue, PCB can connect to the IP address of the web server, but not the domain name of the web server. Okay, provide the solutions. This indicates that the DNS server is set up correctly or set up incorrectly. If we go back into PCB, close the browser, open up our command prompt, type in ipconfig, that will give us information about our IP address, subnet mask default gateway, but we want to see what our DNS server is. ipconfig /all. Here we have our fast Ethernet, we have our IP address, our subnet mask, our default gateway, and then we have our DNS server. That address, 209.165.201.4, is our DNS server. If we scroll up to our addressing table, we find that that is the address to DNS server 2. If we remember, we added in the second DNS server. This was the newly added one in there. It's in the cloud somewhere. It's in this Internet Service Provider cloud, that DNS. Now, what does that mean here? That means there is probably an incorrect entry for the domain name on that DNS2 server. And so most likely wrong IP address for the domain name of www.cisco.pka on DNS2. Okay, and so we've narrowed it down, but now the issue here is we don't have access to that. We have access to all the devices on our network, all the systems there, but your internet service provider, they're not going to let you have access to their DNS servers. They're just not. It just doesn't make good business sense. And so that problem is out of our network. It's out of our hand. What we have to do is we have to escalate that and let our ISP know, hey, we have a problem. You guys fix it for us. And so our solution is need to escalate problem to the ISP to fix the DNS record. Okay, that takes care of D. Onto E. Could all the issues be resolved on PCB and still make use of DNS2? If not, what would you need to do? Once again, it's the DNS2 has configuration issues. We need to let the ISP know that. DNS2 has an incorrect entry for the domain of www.cisco.pka. Let the ISP know to fix it. Capitalize that, make that look right. And finally, on to step 5, verify all PCs can access the web server. www there. Your completion percentage should now be 100%. Well, we have done that. All PCs, PC1, PC2, and PCA, they are all able to access the web server, both the domain and the IP address. PCB is able to access the IP address of the web server, but not the domain name. We need to escalate a ticket to our ISP to let them know that there's an incorrect entry there. Your completion percentage should be 100. If not, verify the configuration. If we look down here in the original packet tracer window, we are at 100% completion. If we click on check results over here to assessment items, we can see we have all green check marks. That was Packet Tracer Lab 17.7.7 Troubleshoot Connectivity Issues. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on configuration examples. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. There you can find out how to get all these episodes in video and podcast form. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I've created 4 wonderful playlists for you on the CCNA. These episodes, I go through all the concepts that Cisco calls out for the CCNA. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.